Hi everyone, this is Matt. I'm the captain of Old Salt. Please bear with me. I don't have the equipment to make this a professional video, but we will do the best we can. And this is more of a tip video, and I think you'll find some good tips if you bear with the quality and the sound quality as we go through this. This is my boat, the Old Salt. It's a 2680 Glacier Bay with twin 90 fuel tanks. I'm going to show you some videos and pictures and try to explain them better as I go. I wish I'd done a better job at taking pictures of this, but I'm going to try to walk you through it as we do it. So bear with us and we will start the process. Okay, we're about to lift up the fish box. We cut the caulk out. You can kind of see how I've got it hooked up. We got a nylon rope with a rod stuck in here, putting upward pressure while we gently cut out the caulk around it. And as soon as we got enough caulk and pressure on it, it popped right up. So this is our first phase. We're about ready to lift up the fish box and get to the gas tank. All right, guys, I'm gonna stop this right here a minute. What you see in my hand is a cheap paint scraper. I heat treated the end of it and bent it on a 90 degrees. You gotta heat treat it, otherwise it just snaps off. That worked pretty good for removing the silicone caulk, and this is silicone caulk. It's not the other marine stuff that people keep saying it is. I forgot the name of it. But this is a marine silicone caulk, and I found there's no chemicals that will get rid of this. You've got to cut it out. And a little upward pressure, what we're doing here, plus elbow grease, caulk comes right out. However, I will tell you, the second one we did, I came up with the idea of taking a multi-tool blade, an old one, and we ground off the blades on the end of it. And again, I heat treated it and bent that at a 90 degrees, and we used a multi-tool to get the caulk up. What a difference. Within a few minutes, we had all the caulk cut out with that. The multi-tool is the way to go. Just heat treat a blade and bend it like this scraper, and it will take that caulk right on out of there, make your life a lot easier. All right, guys, this is the multi-tool. This is the trick. I took an old blade and ground the tip off so it's smooth, and then heated it to bend it at a 90-degree angle. This will take that caulk out and get underneath the fish box and cut that caulk out like butter. This is the way to go to cut the caulk out. When you get the tanks out, you also use the multi-tool to cut the fiberglass around the fuel tanks to get the fuel tanks out, and you'll need to use the multi-tool also to cut the fiberglass to get the water tank out. The trick with that is, again, using the multi-tool works much better than any other tool, a sawzall or a saw. This multi-tool will cut through fiberglass like butter. And the trick is you want a blade similar to this one that says it will cut metal. They're usually a bimetal blade. One blade will just go through fiberglass, all the fiberglass you want. But if you use a wood blade, it dulls those up pretty quick. But the trick is use a bimetal multi-tool blade. But the multi-tool, I found, is the thing to cut caulk and the tool to cut the fiberglass. And it doesn't throw up a lot of dust. So this is the way to do it, guys. I'm telling you. I've learned this through experience. So good luck with that. All right, these are just some still pictures. You can see all the gunk. That's the water tank there that you have to cut out. Again, you can see the gunk and the pitting on the top. A lot of gunk. Use the heat gun to get the hoses off. That's my size of my tanks. All right, the next video you're going to see, we've got the port tank out. I wish I'd shown more pictures of that, but I had people helping me and I couldn't stop. But I will show more of the starboard side. Now you're going to hear some commentary where I didn't think coating the tanks was necessary, but I've since changed my mind on that. I really do like epoxy coating these tanks and strongly recommend it, because the starboard tank had a lot of pitting on the top, which we didn't have that on the port tank. But I think epoxy coating these things is the way to go. But I'm going to leave in the commentary because this is a learning process that I learned as we were removing these tanks. And at the very end of this video, I'll give you some more comments on what I think is the proper way to do it. But we'll just show you as I go. Okay guys, we got the tank removed. I'll show you inside the hull. Found the culprit after inspecting this thing. I was getting a slight leak here. Wasn't this bad. My screwdriver went right through it. That's how thin it was. But it was a very slow leak, but getting ready to be a big leak. But you know, right here you got a lot of corrosion. You can see where it's rubbing on the bottom here. But on the Glacier Bay, as I discovered, you have these rubber strips that are going the length of the tank, keeping the tank off of the floor from rubbing. Then they had these big blobs of caulk. Right here would be a big blob. You can see where the salt kind of collected inside that blob of caulk and severely corroding the aluminum here. And again, over here, these are blobs of caulk that was trapping water. This whole area here in the back was just sitting in water all the time. The drain for the hull is somewhere flipped over here versus being right in the middle, which we might, when I show you the hull, we might redo that. But all the damage, the big damage is here, and then where these blobs of caulk, but it's all mostly towards the rear end here. You can see where the weld here is starting to deteriorate, because again, all this is sitting in water. You can see the water stain. You can kind of see the water stain. It's like this. That almost sat in the water, salt water, all its life. Right there, because the drain to this is not centered. It's kind of over here. It might be on this side, but it's not centered. It's kind of a weird design. As we move forward, these spots here is where it was the rubber. I guess it settled, and it basically was rubbing on the hull on these spots, but they hadn't deteriorated all the way through, but these are rub marks. So if you had any paint on this thing, it would have been rubbed right off. You can see that the bare aluminum, as long as it's getting air, is perfectly fine. I mean, these tanks are 19 years old. This is a 2004 Glacier Bay. But you can see where the caulk is, where it either reacted or is trapped salt water between the caulk. These caulk blobs, which I'll show you. I mean, that's a whole lot worse than rubbing. But this is kind of superficial up in here. This is the front of the tank. All the damage is mostly in the rear of the tank. And we'll show you. You know, the front here is, you know, it's got some mold black on it, but it's virtually perfect condition. Sides are perfect condition. The top on this is in perfect condition. And I'll show you some pictures of it. All the damage is, the big damage is right in here. All right, I will flip this thing over and let you look at it. All right, we got it flipped over. You can see, other than being dirty, the top is virtually, untouched by the environment. I mean, it's in great shape. The sides are in great shape. You don't start seeing anything until you get down at the bottom where that was sitting in water. You can kind of see the water level right there. That sat in water all the time right there. Bad design by Glacier Bay not having that drain right dead in the middle. But anyway, the top is perfectly fine. Give you that's the original manufacturer there. But so my thoughts are, I'm probably gonna build these tanks myself. I'm gonna get the bottom aluminum bent with an angle, and then I think I'm gonna cut the top off and just reuse it and put it back onto the original onto the bottom. I'm gonna rebuild the bottom, cut the top off, and weld the top back on to new stuff. And I'll pressure test it and all that. I'm not a TIG professional by any means, but I've done a lot of TIG welding, and as of now, I don't see why I can't build these things. And the key on these tanks is not let them rub on anything and get the water drain out of them, it looks like to me. And again, I'll show you the hull here in a minute, and you can see for yourselves the problem areas. But anyway, that's my thought. I think I'm gonna cut the top off and reuse the top and just build me a new bottom section. And as of right now, I don't think it's gonna be that big a deal to do that. Save me a lot of money down the road. And but anyway, I will show you the hull next. All right, guys, this is we finally got the tank out. This is port side, and I hadn't pulled the starboard, but I think it's going to be easier because we won't have this water tank to contend with out in the front. That was slight bear cutting that out, but you got to cut that water tank out. Now, if you notice, you got these rubber strips here. They look like what they call them, but the rubber guards on the outside of a boat. Can't think of the name of them, but they are screwed and caulked in various places. And these blobs of caulk they got covering the screws where my foot is seem to be a problem. They seem to be holding, catching salt and stuff. As I mentioned in the tank, that seems to be a problem. But you can see in the back here, and all this debris, some of this debris is when I cut the tank out, but a lot of it was just accumulation of just crap growing and falling off the tank. And Glacier Bay has one drain hole right here, and it's not clogged up, but you can see it's not centered. And that would be easy to clog up as well, but I'm surprised it's not clogged up. But you can see in this middle here is holding water that gets in here. I'm thinking about for the future, maybe drilling a hole right dead center going through. I'm going to investigate that, see why that isn't done versus that. Seems to me that'd be a better hole and easier to clean out. But anyway, I'm going to do investigating whether I do that or not. There is no hole, leak hole, which surprised me, in the front. So any water gets in here, it's got to drain out through that small hole in the back. And if that clogs up, this thing will fill up with water around your tank. So, I'm not too sure about this. Only having one hole in here. But anyway, I'm going to research that a little bit more, see whether I need to add some more holes. But you can see these rubber pieces where my foot is. I don't know if they settled a little bit too, because you can see right here, the tank was actually rubbing right here on this, which is not ideal. But that was not causing my leak. My leak was back here where it was soaking in water, and on this stuff. So it worked pretty good overall, but I don't know, I'm gonna check on using some different stuff possibly, and I'd like your thoughts on that versus these strips. What would be a good bed for the tank? So we need to look into that. But anyway, this is it. And overall, the tank really held up well, except for, if this area here wasn't holding water, the tanks would probably still be good. And you can see where I cut out the fiberglass here, where my foot is. That holds the top of the tank in. And there was no corrosion around that at all. The top of this tank is virtually untouched. So I think this is a good system to do. Allows the air to get around the tank. I think that, again, as I mentioned before, keeping the tank dry and air around it is the best thing you can do. So anyway, while we're here, I might look into replacing these hoses. Gas hoses look pretty good to me, but again, we're undecided on that. But these white hoses, I'm thinking about, while we're here, we'll replace those. The top deck drains, anybody knows where we can get those, I'd be appreciated. I think I need to replace those. They are getting dried out. You can see this one here is, excuse me, is cracked a little bit. And you can feel the plastic. It's sun-dried, getting old. So anyway, this is inside the tank hole, and you can see what we're dealing with. Lasted 19 years, so I guess it wasn't too bad, but we'll see if we can improve upon it. All right, guys, I'm removing the starboard tank. I'm going to show you my setup. Most of you probably won't have this, but this is basically a engine hoist, hydraulic engine hoist from Harbor Freight. Got it on sale for $110. Now you will notice I had a 2-foot extension to it. That's all I did, and I made the feet wider for crates because I use this also to install my new engines when I repowered this thing. This thing has been a godsend for me. I first built it with my old motors. They had oil pumps that needed to be replaced, and I had to pull the heads off of the old engines, and that's when I first got the idea for this thing, and had to make it 2 foot taller so it could work off of the boat. I'll give you a back view of it here in a second. All right, here's the back view of it. Basically, it's a Harbor Freight engine hoist, $110. If you can do a little welding, it's great. And like I said, I use it on my old motors to pull the power heads off. These are new motors that I've had for 2 years now, and I installed those myself and couldn't have done it without this engine hoist. And now the engine hoist is coming into play again to help me pull these gas tanks. I will go up top here and show you how that works. All right, here's my setup. Basically just got a nylon rope tied to a 12-inch steel rod, and when I put pressure on it, the rod grabs it right there, and I put some pretty good upward pressure while I'm trying to cut this caulk out with a bent putty knife. And I bend these putty knives in a vise, and you got to get them red hot with a propane torch, otherwise they'll just crack. But get them red hot, bend them, cool them off, and they're good to go. And you can make them any size you want. This is roughly a 3/4 bend. It's kind of bent up now because it's some pretty tough work there. And I use a vice grip to pull on it. But also found it helped heating this thing with a heat gun and some WD-40, and you just keep working it. But this upward pressure really helps things to get this thing loose. It didn't take me maybe 15, 20 minutes, if that, to cut the caulk out and get that thing to pop up. But it's a little elbow grease. But good luck. This is my setup. And, if you can come across, you probably rig up some boards or something with a jack and roughly do the same thing. But come up with a way to get you some upward pressure if you don't have one of these engine hoists. Again, this was $110 from Harbor Freight that I modified, and it's been invaluable to me working on this boat over the years. All right, guys, you can see I got a little 4-inch bar inside the cinder hole with my winch raising it up. You can see the winch. Y'all could probably run a 2x4 across here and have somebody lifting up, same method. But the upward pressure helps a lot. Just broke it loose, and got to slide it forward and then out. It should come out of there pretty good now. But you can see we've taken loose the fiberglass around the sides. So getting ready to remove the tank, but that's how we do it. That upward pressure helps a lot. Got to break loose the caulk holding it in the back here where the screws are. That holds it pretty good, seems like. But anyway, that's about ready to lift out the starboard tank. Just want to let you know, this is what I'm using to cut the fiberglass with. This thing goes through it like butter. Beats the heck of a Sawzall. Get a multi-tool, and the trick with this is using the metal wood blades. It's right there. It's metal wood. It might be bimetal, I'm not sure, but these blades, one blade will cut almost everything without getting dull. If you use a wood blade, it'll cut it, but it gets dull pretty quick. But these things, the metal wood blades, which I think are bimetal, they cut it like butter and keep a blade for a long, long time. All right, we got the tank out. It was a bear. You can see those 2 screws in the bottom. Those are from the bracket in the back of the tank that had come loose. Basically, there weren't any screws in that back bracket that all worked their way loose. I think we're going to not use that back bracket when we put the new tanks in. And to avoid these screws from getting on the tank. And when I show you the tank, you'll see where those screws were actually starting to eat up the tank. This side is much better shape for as a tank than the other side. I had a bear getting it out because of the tabs as well on the end of the tank weren't giving me enough clearance to get this tank out of this hole. I actually had to bend the tabs up to give me just enough clearance to get this thing out of here. Again, kind of see the debris. Had to take out the tackle box station to give me a little extra room, but it just barely clears. I'm telling you, it was a bear getting enough clearance. Had to shave the edges of the fish box just a little bit. I'd take about 1/4 off each side to give me enough room to get the tank out of this hole. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish cutting this fiberglass off nice and neat, sand it so I can re-fiberglass the tanks in. And again, I'm just going to re-fiberglass the tanks really good on the back side, so we don't have to have any of this bolt down system here to hold the tank. Maybe even a 2x4 in the back might help as well. Fiberglass that in. but we'll see. But definitely going to get rid of these screws that have potential of popping a hole in the tank. All right, guys, this is the starboard tank. I had to reach in there and bend these flaps up because it was giving me a heck of a time getting this thing out. It was just enough length that I could not get the tank out. So bent them up, that helped me out. You can see this is where the screws were bouncing around on the bottom of this tank. Almost didn't puncture it, still plenty there, but it was definitely working on it. So good thing we pulled it, take care of that. Come up to the back of the tank. Compared to the port side, very little erosion. This is wearing here. Not too sure how thick that is, but it's still got integrity. Here was starting to cause a problem. And again, you can kind of see the water line because of that drain in there. But overall, this tank still got some life in it. I make a big decision whether we do a new one or not with this. But it was a good thing we did pull it. Got rid of those screws that were potentially putting a hole in the tank. You can see all up in here where they've been bouncing around, causing problems. But still got pretty good integrity. All right, what you're seeing here is the top that I cut off the old tanks. You can see what the tanks are made out, how they're made. It's got the baffle system inside and the vent pipe going clean across from front to back. So this is what I did. I cut the tops off both tanks, got some new bottoms made and end pieces made, and welded those back myself. The port tank top had very little pitting. The starboard tank I'd found had a lot of pitting, and I simply went back and spot welded those. Seemed to spot weld pretty good. And like I said, in the future, I think to solve that problem, I epoxy these tanks with some special aluminum epoxy, which I think is going to help things a lot. And we pressure test them, which you'll see further in the video. But this is what the inside of your tank looks like. Thought that'd be interesting for you to see. Okay, everyone, this is the port tank, and I replaced the bottom and reusing the top of the original tank. Got this bent at a metal fabricator. Worked out pretty good. I'm TIG welding with the old Synchro-Wave that I've had for 20 years when I bought the boat. It's how I built the tower. It's been a great TIG welder for me. Doesn't have all the fancy stuff, but when you're welding, thicker metal, it does well. I triple weld every weld just because I'm not a professional TIG welder, but I should do fine. All the grind marks is where I've cleaned it off. Had a lot of pitting, and I went through and TIG weld every pit, every major pit, and then I'm going to epoxy coat this. In my first video, I thought it was unnecessary, but after looking at both tanks, and I'll show you the port tank pitting on top was even worse. So I washed the boat with a lot of bleach and hard soap, I guess, and it must leak through. And I think bleach and aluminum don't get along, and I think it just sat there, and over a while started pitting the tank. So this go around, I bought some aluminum epoxy paint, and we'll show you that process when we get to it. I'm gonna paint the whole tank with this aluminum epoxy paint, and that should protect the top especially from the harsh chemicals of cleaning when I do use bleach. I mean, the fish tanks, to keep those things halfway clean, you got to bleach them. But somehow that's leaking down, sitting on these tanks, I think, and with salt water. Right now, we've got a pressure test going. I've got it all welded up. It's holding good. I've got it on 3 PSI. I'm gonna let it sit overnight and see what happens. So far, all my leaks have been at my connections, and I think I finally got those solid now where nothing's leaking. I've sprayed all the seams with some spray soap to see if there's any bubbling. Haven't seen that, so I'm thinking it's going to do. I think we're going to pass the pressure test with flying colors. But anybody's interested, this is how we do it. I bought a pressure gauge, and we fill it up with air here. This is just a temporary tube with a plug in it. And again, these are temporary tubes here with plugs in them. And I bought a brand new fuel sender, and we bought a brand new pipe fitting, I forgot what that's called, for the tank as well. So all this is new, and we're pressure testing. All right, on to the port tank. Getting ready to, this tank is in great shape other than the top, believe it or not. The bottom is virtually no problems. I haven't seen pitting on the bottom. But this tank has excessive pitting on the top. And so I'm glad I pulled it, because sooner or later these pits were going to be a problem. And I'm getting ready to TIG weld all the pits. We'll zoom in and you'll see these are some deep pits. But I'm pretty sure they seem to fill up really well with the TIG welder. So I'm just going to take my time and fill them all up and grind them smooth. But you can really see some of these are really deep. That one especially, these are especially deep. Wasn't much longer that these would have been actual holes. Here's another one. But you can kind of see it has a lot of pitting on the top. But the new epoxy coating should solve that. Over here again, some more pitting. And a lot of the pitting seems to be at the front and back end of the fish boxes. So I think it's, salt water or bleach or whatever is just sitting on them and just starting to pit over time. But up in here is all looking pretty good. So anyway, we've got new here, and I'm going to replace that one as well. And here's a brief look at my old Synchro-Wave TIG welder. Been a great machine. It's paid for itself 100 times. But this is a transformer, not an inverter box. So it's heavy, and but it works great. Anyway, thought I'd update you. Signing off. All right, guys. Almost done with this tank. I'm still touching up some pits. I'll show you that in a second. If you notice, I've cut off these tabs. We're going to do away with these tabs because the screws come loose and get underneath the tank and tear up the tank eventually. So we're going to put a board across in the boat and fiberglass it to hold the tank. If you ever got to take the tank out again, just cut the board. But at least there won't be any screws flying around that you're not aware of. Like I said, this tank is in pretty good shape. This is a starboard tank. Other than the top, we had all this pitting. And this is, a little time consuming, but I'm taking the TIG welder and touching up all the big corrosion spots and pitting. And, there's a lot of them, but it's really filling up really well. The pits just come right out, and the aluminum just goes right in there. And you can see over here, I'm starting to grind these off. So it looks like a pretty good fix to me without having to buy a new tank. And really the top was the only pitting I had, where the port tank was opposite. It had pitting in the top, but not near as bad as this one. And like I said, I'm pretty sure when I'm washing the boat, the bleach and stuff must get down on this aluminum and pit, is my opinion. But anyway, this is almost done with the spot welding, and then we'll grind it. And then, like I said before, I have changed my mind after seeing this pitting. Definitely, I'm going to put a protective coating on these tanks, especially for the tops. I think that's where you really need it. But I'm going to use a special aluminum epoxy paint that we got from Jamestown Distributors. So anyway, this is where we're at. Almost done with this process. Also want to update you on the port tank. I just let the pressure off, but trust me, it had 3 pounds of pressure for 24 hours. Let it sit overnight, and you can kind of see my rig there for pressure testing. And it's done fine. So this one is about ready to be painted, and we're going to wash it with a etching compound before we paint it with the epoxy. I still got to take off everything and weld this bracket on. Probably should have done that before I did this, but I'll have to take this off so I don't melt it and put this bracket back on. But minor. And anyway, it's looking pretty good. Can't wait to get them back in the boat. Note the rocking. We're going to put these strips closer together. The end ones don't even touch. See, I can rock it. This is the pattern of the tank. So we're going to put them closer together so that bottom doesn't stay out of the water a little bit more.